It's Mentorship Monday. It's Mentorship Monday, guys. Hello. Let me give it a couple minutes to get some people joining. Martin, nice to see you. Good evening. Tita. Masejo. Hello. Moreno. Nice to see you. PZ. Michelle. Hi. Tepo Tlatwayo. Nice to see you. Manda. Hello to you. Coach Ojigo. Hello. Elbo. Nice to see you. Hello, guys. Hello. Mabato. Finks. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Otandiwe. What a beautiful name. Hello, Tandiwe Tembega. Nice to see you, my friend. Siwa. Kay. Nice to see you. TK. Hello. Yolanda. I hope I'm saying it right. Hello. Spume. Felicia, Iviwe. Hello everybody, and welcome to Mentorship Monday. Amanda, Pam, Anselmo, hi guys. Day P events, nice to see you guys. I'm so excited. You guys have such fancy names. Luke Black. I hope I'm saying it correctly. Lelo and Delta's love. It's always nice to see you, Delta. You're always here. I love that. Crystal and Tandiwe. Simkai or Simkay, Abongile, Kiabetwe.82. Hello. K Tuani. Niazbala lezinto. Yes. Hello, Vuyo. I'm not going to say hello to Kanye because she's actually in the room with me. Sibonelo. I'm Klaus George. Hello to you. Okay, great. Let's get going. Welcome to Mentorship Mondays. Guys, thank you for being here. I'm so excited for us to have another session. So, I want to say two things up front. So, my social media team is like, Nosy, please don't forget this. Say this right up front before you go too far. Number one, what we're going to do, hi Farai, what are we going to do is that when we find there's a lot of people who are interested in one particular theme of questions, where possible, my leader Pusemodi, hello to you, where possible we're going to actually invite somebody as part of our mentorship community. So we're going to grow a mentorship community so that you're not only getting sort of mentorship from my own personal experience, but you're also getting a broader lens. So the first one that we're actually going to do is we've invited Leslie Donna Williams. If you don't know her, you need to get to know her. She is the CEO of Timolong Precinct at Wits University. And she's going to be joining us next week to talk about fellowships because she, like me, has had many different experiences of being a fellow. And so we're going to literally, with Leslie joining us, we're going to unpack what makes fellowship work, what from our own experience, and also what's made them not work. And also for those who are interested, how do you get into fellowships and how do you make them work for you, right? Because everybody's got their own unique experience. That's one. Then the other week, I literally just spoke to Tobani Ndlovu today. If you don't know him, Tobani is the founder of TEDx Durban. A lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, Nozi, I want to be a speaker. I want to be able to deliver speeches on platforms. And so I thought, what better than to get a TEDx founder to come and speak to us. So Tobani is giving us the thumbs up, so we're going to bring him on. I'm Debza. Happy birthday, my booty. I'm so glad that you're here, or happy belated that you're here despite probably still celebrating a bit of your birthday. Okay, so those are the two things. We're going to get Leslie to talk fellowships. We're going to get Tobani to talk about how to become a recognized speaker who gets invited to platforms like TEDx. The other thing that my team said I must please mention is that about 2 weeks ago, I was invited to a panel to talk about personal brand building. So what we've done is that we've put together all of the key takeaway points that I spoke about. We've created a carousel and we're going to be sharing that with you, and maybe we'll have another theme around brand building because there's a lot of questions that have come up about how do I build my brand? How do I get people to see me? And I want to maybe just focus some time on that as well. Okay, so let's get right into it. There's so many questions from this week, guys. So I'm going to try and just like be as fast as possible. Remember that the process is that DM me the questions so that I have some time to apply my mind, so I'm not just speaking from the top of my headache. And that the questions that are DM'd during the week are the ones that we're going to prioritize. Of course, some questions come up and comments come up while we're on the mentorship session together. And where possible, we might touch on those. But we're definitely going to be prioritizing the ones that have come through during the week. I want to start with a question from Koli Fuyani. So you'll see me looking up. I'm looking at the screen behind me because that's where I've got all the questions. And Koli is saying, when you are consulting, how do you balance saying no without fearing not having enough work? So basically, how do you have the confidence when you feel that a client is ripping you off to say, no, I'm actually not going to do that, or no, I'm actually not going to do it at that price, and without feeling like, oh my gosh, if I don't do it for them at the price that they're demanding, I'm never going to get work again. And I think it's a really, really good question. And I feel like from an entrepreneurial point of view, it's a journey, right? You build muscle in learning how to stand up for the value that you're delivering and the worth that you're putting on the table. But I always say this. I today can say that when clients come up to me and say, oh, we want to give you exposure, I'm at a place now in my career where I can say, I don't need exposure, right? I've got exposure. But there was a time when I was falling for that, and probably because I needed to be in rooms and to be seen. And so it firstly starts off with your own conversation with self, right? To say, do I need this opportunity? Who's in the audience? And does it matter that if this person is in the audience, this is actually going to be a business development opportunity for me? And if you feel that despite the fact that you're not getting paid at the value that you want to get paid on, but the value of the people in the audience is worth taking the risk, I think that's a very personal decision that you make. I think the risk, though, is getting into a pattern or a trap where you then that becomes your operating model, the way you do business, that whenever you get paid in kind, you get paid in exposure, and you've got to get to a point when you say, no, this audience knows me. I don't need to be exposed to this audience. And so actually, this is my price, and I'm going to actually stick to the price, and I'm going to be able to break it down. So I always say, and there's a lot of questions around pricing, I always say that when a lot of people say to me, Nozi, but how do I know how much to price when I am invited to moderate something or facilitate something? And I always say, you don't just price for the delivery on the day. So it's a 2-hour event. You don't just price for the delivery on the day. You've got to price for the research, the building of the conversation, and all the hours that you're going to be putting in. And if you're expected to do a post-event report, for example, you've got a price for that as well. The issue then becomes is, what is your rate per hour? And unfortunately, guys, I would be absolutely lying to you if I said to you, you know, there is this one particular amount, like it's 500 Rand an hour. It just depends on, I might believe that my rate per hour, for argument's sake, is 5,000 Rand an hour. So if I'm going to do something that's going to take me five hours to do for you, even if I'm only delivering it for 1 hour, that's how I justify why I charge you 25,000 Rand. So a couple of things that I've said. One, don't be afraid of getting onto stages and stepping into spaces where you have made a conscious decision that even if I'm not getting paid my worth right now, the people in the audience are worth me stepping into the space and delivering, because the business development opportunity that's going to come from that is worth me not getting paid what I think I should be getting paid. Quick example, when I first started doing work for the United Nations Global Compact, they told me straight up, we can't afford you, were their words, but we do have an honorarium. So you know, the minute they say honorarium is pocket money, it's not really your rate. But when I paused and I think about it, and I was like, okay, who's in the audience? It's every single United Nations organization. A lot of the comms people behind those organizations are all going to be listening to me speak. You don't even have to pay me for that. I will do that because I know that coming out of that experience, I'm going to get 3, 4, 5, 6 different clients. So you're going to tell me it's about exposure. I don't like that word. For me, it's business development. So that's the one thing I've said. The other thing I've said is that when you go into the market and you're pricing yourself, be very clear about how you you put together the cost, but be able to speak to it. The only way you can speak to it is if you've done the work of breaking it down and being able to say, the reason why it's 25,000 rand is that actually it's 5 hours. And the reason that it's 5 hours is because of this and this and this and that. And that's how you justify your cost. And you can justify your cost calmly, not upset. There's nothing wrong. I will query every quote that I get for everything in my life. My husband calls me a miser. It's absolutely fine. So don't get upset because somebody is saying, please, can you justify why you're costing this amount or you're quoting this amount? So be very clear that you're able to do that. And when you feel that the amount that you are putting is the amount that you're quoting is fair value for the work that you're doing, and you don't want to use this as a business development opportunity, you've got to release yourself from the fact that you're not going to get more work. You will get work. In the same way that this particular client was able to reach out to you to ask you to do work, others will also reach out to you. The most important thing that you've got to keep doing is focus on your substance, focus on the value you're putting on the table, and focus on what you're delivering. And don't allow a client to bully you into feeling that they're doing you a favor. Quick story on this. I won't mention the client, but once a client came up to me and they were celebrating an X-year anniversary. I'm not going to tell you the years because now you're going to figure out who it is. And they were saying to me, we want to give you exposure. And I paused and I thought about it and I was like, no, this is not an exposure opportunity. And I had to actually go back to the CEO and said to him, are you paying for the venue? He said, yes. I said, are you paying for the food? He said, yes. I said, oh, I heard that you're flying people in. Is that true? He said, yes. And I said, so the most important thing that you're bringing people here for is the thing you don't want to pay for. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to do it. This is my price. And we can have a conversation around the pricing that I've put forward, but I'm not open to a conversation about you not paying me anything. And so I hope that story is helpful one way or the other. Xoli, I hope you found it helpful. Okay. Jocelyn Machevo, I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but I'm going to go to Jocelyn's question now. I just want to say hello to everybody else who's just joined. Jocelyn says, how can I charge for my services and have people or companies pay for it? I'm often invited to moderate and facilitate, and I'm afraid to charge and miss the opportunity. I don't want to belabor the point and repeat what I've just said, but I do want to say to Jocelyn, if you cannot be afraid to charge for your services, because what you're saying is you are uncertain about whether what you've been approached to do is worth any value or not. If somebody has approached you to do something, it automatically means that they're seeing the value in what you are able to produce, in what you are able to create, in what you're able to deliver. You've got to let go of this idea that what you are being approached for is not worth the price tag. We've got to really get more comfortable with the money conversation. I really feel that especially for entrepreneurs in this particular space, it's a very difficult conversation. I get people WhatsApping me all the time and saying, oh, by the way, Nosy, I just got invited for this. How much should I charge? How much do you think you're worth? That's the question. And it takes a long time to get there. And I totally empathize. It took me a long time to stop charging, for example, when I work with international clients, to just be able to say, actually, I charge in dollars. Like, I'm not even going to start the conversation on rands. I charge in dollars, and that's what I do. And that's the focus of the work that I do. Sorry, guys, my husband just walked in. Okay, so please don't be afraid. You cannot be afraid to charge for, your work or your services. If they weren't worth anything, nobody would actually be approaching you for that piece of work in the first instance. Jocelyn then says, how can I affirm my brand in the international market, considering that I'm coming from a Portuguese-speaking country? I do speak English fluently. And then she says, I've got a bit of a backstory. She says, I'm Mozambican. I've been told that I'm good at facilitating conversations. And it wasn't until I saw you that I realized it's possible. She says, ever since I've been growing in the business at national and international level, I find that I do work mostly in women empowerment and energy areas. So how do you get your brand seen in the international market? So I'll tell you my story of how I broke into the international market. It's not a fancy story. It's not a big aha moment. Basically, somebody couldn't show up and I was available, and that was it. So it's really, I'm so sorry, guys. My husband and my dog are misbehaving. So somebody wasn't available, and I was called in. I showed up and I made sure that I made that moment count. And that was probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and I never looked back. And I just made sure that that was now going to be my niche, and that was my focus area that I was going to actually be looking at. It's a difficult story to take in, because it does mean, firstly, the international market is small and closed. So there are, no, we are not doing this. You're not going to be coming into my life. Sorry. The international market is small and it's relatively closed, in the sense that there are very few what I would call real global moderators. There are very few people that I would say, okay, these are peers and contemporaries. And I say this, guys, with all humility. And the reason why there are few is that you're being trusted. Hi, Makungu, nice to see you. You're being trusted with not only the brand of a particular client, like we probably see in the national level. You're being trusted with a national or nation state brand, like an entire country invites you to moderate something, or an international organization. So as you're moderating, the reputation of an entire international organization is what you're actually carrying in your hands. It's a very difficult space to get into. The entry barriers are high, because we all know each other, and we know that it's tough to get in. But I really feel that if you do get a break, in the same way that I got a break, where somebody just said, I'm not available, Nozi's available, just make it count. Like, I remember I was really nervous. It was the first thing I'd ever done internationally. It was for an international organization, and it was a big stage. There were 200 countries represented. And I remember the one thing they kept on saying to me was that whatever happens, do not start late, do not finish late. And I remember, because there was a couple of presidents there, they said, literally something like, you've got to finish at 14:53. 14:53, like not 52, not 54, 14:53. And that was the thing that I was preoccupied with. And I'm like, okay, I have to really do a good job with that. But I must say that I think the thing that stood me in good stead and really helped me to do that was, when I used to work in the presidency, for those who've worked with political principles, when a political principles diary says you are taking off at 14:52, it's 14:52. So I'm a stickler for time. I'm a stickler for time. And I just think they were so shocked that I was able to do that. That was literally the opening. Never mind, the content is there, the delivery is there, but I was now able to do it at a global stage and do it at the expectation that had been set. And literally that was it after that. So somebody opened the door for me. I oftentimes, when I'm not available, will say, oh, Pumla, 14:52 is just a time code. So like 8 minutes to 3, that's what I mean. So if they say that it has to end at 14:50, as in 10 to 3, that's exactly the time you've got to start and end, because they are at an international level, you're working on seconds, because entire presidential protection units are working, and protocol is all working to the same clock. So that's what I mean by that. But the long and short of it is that you might find an opportunity where somebody opens the door for you. And if that happens, don't look twice. Go in and make sure that you really don't drop the ball, really deliver on that opportunity. The last thing I want to say on this is that it's such a high stakes environment, guys, that I oftentimes get people saying, oh, you should recommend me when you're not available internationally. But just remember, for every person who you recommend, you're actually taking your brand equity and you're putting that forward as risk capital on their behalf. And you're saying, take my brand equity and walk with this in the room. So if you are the person who gets recommended, remember, you're not just doing this for yourself. You're not just doing this for the client. The person who recommended you, their brand is on the line. Their reputation is on the line, because they have put their name to say, I trust this person, and that they can deliver at an international level. So I really struggle sometimes when I've recommended and I see that the person that I've recommended is not putting in the kind of work that I'd put in. I can see that they're approach is a bit laissez-faire, right? So just, kind of chilled and relaxed. And for me, that's really difficult to handle, because I'm like, you drop the ball once in this environment, that's it. In the same way that if you're doing a good job, it spreads like wildfire. In the same way that if you make a monumental mistake, it's going to spread like wildfire. That's what it's like playing at an international level. It just is what it is. Okay, Jocelyn, I hope that was clear. Hello to Leslie. I see you. So we were talking about you, Leslie, just now, and we were saying we can't wait to talk fellowships with you next week. Litlogonolo Museri says, how do you secure your speaking gigs? How do they approach you, or do they headhunt you? So first things first, Litlogonolo, I don't use the word gigs. In my universe and in my life, a gig is a swear word, because if you treat something like a gig, you are treating it like a side hustle. It's a piecemeal job, something that, outside of your main focus, you're just doing on the side. This conversation strategy is my life. It's not a gig. It's not a side hustle. And I really just want to implore you guys and to say, it matters what you call things. It matters how you name things, because that's how you give meaning to them, and that's how you give them a place in your life. If something is important to you, don't call it a gig. Don't call it a side hustle. But to your question, how do I then get speaking engagements or moderating engagements? Do they approach me, or do I approach them, or do they headhunt me? So, a combination of things. My biggest marketing tool is word of mouth. And what I mean by that is, oftentimes when I get off the stage, people will come up to me and say, oh my gosh, that was brilliant. Please take my card, or please give me your card so I can be in touch when we have an event. That's how I get my business, through people actually experiencing me. That's probably, literally, guys, I kid you not, 90% of the work that I get. When I see a new client that I've never, that I don't know, I always ask, so how did you come across me? Was it the website? Was it Instagram? And they always say, oh no, I was in the audience. And sometimes people will say, I was in the audience 5 years ago, and I knew I needed to find you, or I've been following your work, or whatever the case may be. And the reason why I'm sharing that with you guys is not because I think I'm great and I'm amazing or whatever. It's about every single moment counts. Every single moment is an interview. Every single moment is a business development opportunity. You do not know who is sitting in the audience with your next invoice that's going to be paid. So whether you're delivering, whether you come to an event and the event is a flop and there's like the room is like empty or the room is half full, you don't now lower the standard of your delivery because you don't have an audience. We don't do this because we have an audience. Even if you shift only one person, that one person is enough. So whether there are 5 people in the audience, whether there are 5,000 people in the audience, we show up, and we show up hard. And so that's really, really important. And I really don't want to, I don't want to downplay that in any way or form. And so word of mouth, we don't, sorry guys, this guy's so needy today. I don't pitch for work, in the sense of not pitch as in like not show up. I mean, I don't pitch for work as in like, I don't go out and to clients and say, hey, this is me, please can you, consider me. And that's just because God's been really, really faithful. And I'm just really super busy that I don't need to do that. I'm not discounting that maybe there might be a time when I have to do that. And I thank God that I think I'm capable of doing that if it came to that. But right now, I don't look for work. I don't go write proposals. I don't do anything like that. Work comes to me. And oftentimes we have to decline a lot of work because there's just not enough time in the year to be able to do all of the work that we get requests for. I wish I could clone myself, but that's a model that hasn't worked for me. But increasingly now, I'm getting other people who I consider as really good moderators, and I'm recommending them for clients, sometimes under my banner, and they're going out and they're doing amazing work in the world. So I hope that answers your question, Lihlokonolo. Okay, two quick comments. Ingata is saying, please don't forget to share your comments as a Tutu Fellow and other fellowships. So Ingata, just to let you know, we've decided, because so many people want to talk about the fellowships, we're going to do it justice. We're not going to try and squeeze it in on a day like this where there are just so many questions. We're going to do a focus like at least 50% of the time on next week's Mentorship Monday. We're going to be talking to Leslie Williams. She's here with us. She's got fellowship experience as well. So you're not just getting my experience, but you're getting a broader experience. And we're going to be talking about how to get into fellowships, how do you make them work for you, how not to get caught in the trap of being a fellowship hopper. When do you know when it's a good fellowship, when it's not a good fellowship? And also, how do you know when to call it if this is not the fellowship for you? So we're going to talk about all of that. Crystal is saying, Nozi, do you post all the mentorship videos on YouTube? My network is so bad. Yes, guys, please. Please just look up my name, Nozi Pushabalala. And then because there's so much content with me, you've got to scroll down. Our YouTube channel is up. And guys, we have less than 100 subscribers. So please, let's please subscribe. What we do is that we take these Mentorship Monday talks and we put them on YouTube so that you can actually go back and revisit them from time to time. Somebody sent me, I'm sorry I don't have your name. It says, hi ma'am. Hey guys, I love it when you call me ma'am. Yes, it just, Nami, I feel elevated. Hi ma'am. Can you please make a highlights? Can you please make a highlights in your Insta profile for books to read? It will be highly appreciated. So I think my team is here. So guys, we need a highlights on the Insta thing, just so we can highlight all the books that we think are really good recommendations. And we're going to be, I think that is going to help to that question. Tulsile, thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing. You're one of the 52 people that we have. I've got 3 more questions, but before I get to those questions, I just want to say something that's super special that happened. In last week's Mentorship Monday, I shared that I had been unsuccessful in a PhD application. And somebody actually wrote back to me, I think it's Nozipo is her name as well. And she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Please get in touch so I can see how I can help you. So I just want to share that, because I don't ever want us to get the impression that, you know, there's this asymmetry of power here, that Nozipo, the know-it-all, is, you know, mentoring everyone. I'm so richly blessed by the feedback that you guys send me in the DMs after Mentorship Mondays, you know, comments like what Nozi wrote to me to say, let me help you. So I'm really growing and benefiting from this as well. So I just want to say thank you guys. It means a lot to me that, you know, this is a give and take relationship, and Nozipo, I'll definitely will be in touch. Nadik says you must go back to lecturing, then you'll be called ma'am all the time. I know, I must go back. I always say that the end goal for me is public service. So maybe I'll get hired at the National School of Government, so I can have a combination of public service and lecturing all at the same time. Okay, I've got 3 more questions that I want to tackle. So here's a question that says, how do you deal with the panel that isn't forthcoming with information, or the people are just dull, for lack of a better word, they say in brackets? How do you pivot to bring them alive or to elevate the conversation? So I think it's, Tevza, calm down, Madam President. I think it's a really good question, right? So how do you make it, how do you turn around a panel that's going bad? Right? So maybe let's start off with why a panel goes bad sometimes. So the biggest thing that could be the problem is that if you're not prepared. So let's assume that that's not the case, that you've done your work and you're prepared. The second thing that can make a panel go south is if your speakers aren't prepared. So you have people who are just speaking from the top of their headaches. So they're not really, they haven't wrapped their heads around the questions, and they're really just speaking from the top of their headache. Or sometimes you have a person who's super dominant in a conversation, so you've got to, manage that. But this question says, what if they, what if they're dull? So I'm assuming they're not contributing, they're low energy, or the conversation is just not landing. Okay. First and foremost, as you grow as a speaker and as you grow as a moderator, you will grow into the confidence of your own voice. So what I mean by that is that you will have the confidence to ditch the script, because clearly that's not working. You'll have the confidence to try something new on the fly, in the moment, in the flow, because what you've prepared is clearly not working. And that comes with time. But the only way that you get there is to trust yourself. And you can sense people's energies, right? So if you're moderating something and you're looking at the audience, because remember, we are in the business of energy, right? So there's the energy that and I'm going to talk about energy a little bit now. There's the energy that we're projecting as we're holding the room and bringing everybody in. But there's the energy that we're receiving from the audience. There's the energy that we're receiving even from. Let's try that again. Sorry, guys. I got a call and I needed to make sure that I dropped that call. Okay. Zingi, thank you for being back. I'm going to give it some time. Tebo, welcome back. Sorry, guys. I got a call and it just threw everything. Jose, Hlongs, Tandi, KMG, Worldwide. Love that. Lindy, Michelle, thank you so much for being back. I'm going to just give it a few more seconds. Acoustic. Oh, my dear. Our official seal. I'm just such a fangirl over you. Karen, Lerato, nice to see you, my darling. Sorry, guys, I got a call, and when your board chairman calls, you just, I wanted to tell him that I'll call him back. And that's another thing we need to talk about. We need to talk about how do you get on boards and how do you make a difference on boards. Danny, Ansela Moore, Sendebs, welcome. I just want to maybe give it until maybe 50 people, and then I will... It's much better now. Thanks, Lerato. Appreciate it. Otandi Weyo. Love that name. Lynn Maja. Welcome back to Khofato. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I think I'm going to pick it up from there. So just to say, apologies. I got a call from my board chairperson, one of the boards I sit on. And, when your chairperson calls, you kind of need to take the call. But I just needed to let him know that I'll call him back. So it just reminded me that that's probably another conversation that we need, we need to start having. I get a lot of people asking me about how do I get on boards, and we need to talk about that. My big thing is always, why do you want to be on a board? Because that in itself, I think, is a very important conversation. And then when you're on that particular board, how do you make sure that you leave value on the table? So thanks, guys, for coming back. Nogwanda, Avetandwa, Rainbow, Anezo, welcome back to all of you guys. So we're on this question of how do you deal with a panel that is not forthcoming or where the information is dull. So I said, firstly, you need to grow into the confidence of your own voice. You need to trust your gut instinct. You can tell when a conversation is not going the way that you anticipate it to go, and you've really, really got to just get into a place where you are able to put the script down and change direction. And I think it's a very difficult thing to do if you don't trust yourself. So remember that in last week's mentorship session, we spoke about how self-confidence is evidence of self-belief, right? So you can't be self-confident if you don't first have self-belief. And we spoke about that at length. And that actually the work that we've got to do is actually building self-belief so that in moments when things are going wrong, you're able to step up with self-confidence. I often think that real confidence, right, is actually tested in difficult times. It's not the stuff that like when things are going well. Our confidence is not about how well you speak. It's not about how articulate you are. It's not about how good you look when you're on stage. It's really about, do you trust your gut instinct? And are you confident enough that doing something different is going to work? Oh my gosh, my brother Georgie Ndirangu is here. Hi Georgie, nice to see you. And so it's really such an important thing that we need to talk about, and not confuse, not confuse the source of self-confidence, but mostly where is self-confidence tested? It's not tested when things are going well, because then it's just public speaking. You're just doing a really good job articulating yourself. Are you confident enough to actually change a conversation, take it away from a CEO and say, I hear you, but I'm actually going to take this conversation. I want to ask the question differently, and completely go off script and trust that what you know and what you're feeling about the conversation is enough to carry the conversation in that regard. So I do want to talk about that. And so I'll tell you maybe a couple of things that have happened to me, like conversations that have gone wrong, and maybe how I dealt with it. Sometimes you have a speaker that's just really scared and they're really shy. And in those moments, you've just got to remember that as the moderator, as the facilitator, that you've got to stand in the gap and be the bridge between their place of fear and the place of impact, right? So you've got to be the bridge between their place of fear and their place of impact. What I mean by that is that you've got to be a safe space that they can walk towards you confident that because you are leading the conversation, they're going to land on the other side of the conversation having made the impact that they really wanted to make. And part of that is, so a couple of things that I do to be a safe space for my speakers. I make sure that I always meet my speakers before delivery. So during COVID, obviously that's a lot of online Zoom briefing meetings where I meet the panelists. Before that, we used to have speaker briefings where we would all sort of connect around the room and have the conversation. But also in the live environment, just before the panel, 20 minutes, 30 minutes before the panel, for all of us to meet in the speaker briefing room, just for them to see that I'm not a scary person. And I'm sometimes shocked at the number of people who are afraid of me. And that's not because they're scared of me, but they're scared of what I represent in the moment. The fact that I represent somebody that is potentially going to make them, put them in a fearful space, somebody who's going to assess and test them through questions. And so you've got to make, you need to make the effort of connecting and engaging with your speakers even before the actual conversation, so that they are at their best. Sometimes you really just get really quiet people who are on the panel because they probably have the expertise, but they're not speakers. So here's my story. And this was on television. I was hosting a conversation. I was hosting a live show, actually, a live markets show. So financial markets, and I had a CEO. And I won't mention the guy. So it was his first interview ever. And he told me before we started, he's like, I'm really, really nervous. And, you say everything like, don't be nervous, just me, forget the cameras, just look at me, you'll be fine. And we were talking about their quarterly performance. So they just released numbers that were now in the market, and the share price was reacting to that. And this is a retailer. So I asked him a question. And the question was, tell us a little bit about your performance. And I thought, open-ended question, he'll be absolutely fine. And he literally responded and he said, retail is detail. And then he kept quiet. And I was like, no, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to have more to say than retail is detail. But I could see that he was absolutely petrified. So in that situation, what you do is that you recognize the fear in the other person, and then you walk towards them almost figuratively. And what that means is that what I did in that moment is to say, that's a really powerful soundbite to kick us off in the conversation. But let's get into the detail a little bit, and the detail of your numbers. Let's talk about your headline earnings and how you performed in that regard. So you basically become a safe space, because in that moment, all he could remember was the one thing that his marketing team or PR team told him to say, which is retail is detail. But I needed a whole lot more than that for a 10-minute conversation. So you need to remember, and this is important because I think sometimes when we're moderators and you're on stage, we forget that our role is to be in service of the conversation, and we seem to play into the person in charge, the celebrity on stage, the person that a lot of people in the audience know. And you forget that the real people that people are here to listen to are actually the experts. And actually, your job is to be a safe space for the experts to be at their best. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. And the quicker we learn that, the better. I do want to, I've got one more question, but I just want to quickly talk about this idea of it not being about you. So I used to, I did a program a couple of years ago where I was training journalists from the Botswana Stock Exchange. And I was saying to them, you know, when you are a journalist in the financial markets, which was the space that I was in when I was with CNBC Africa, your biggest job is to dumb it down. That's your biggest job. Because if the majority of your audience doesn't understand what you're saying, you haven't landed the conversation. If the majority of your audience hasn't understood what you're saying, you haven't landed the conversation. So there's no point in asking questions that make you look smart, but then lock out the audience because nobody knows what you're talking about. So we've got to be mindful of playing into this idea that I'm on stage, everybody's looking at me, and I need to make sure that I look smart, I sound smart, I come across smart. No, the people who need to look smart and sound smart and come across smart are the panelists. And in fact, when they say things in convoluted and complicated and complex ways, your job is to simplify that. And so one of the ways in which you do that is to say, what I heard you say is, and you simplify it, not repeat word for word what they've said. You simplify it so that you make it accessible to the audience. And if you don't make it accessible to the audience, why are you then there? Our job is to be the initiators of conversation, to be the nurturers of conversation, to be the space that holds conversation. And when intellect gets in the way, we've got to bring humanity into the room. All right? So when intellect gets in the way, we've got to bring humanity into the room. Okay. Last question. This is another money question, guys. This is the question. And I feel like I've been talking about this the whole evening. I know people steer away from the money topic, but it often helps so that one isn't undervaluing their craft and the industry as a whole. As a guideline, what's a good rate to charge, especially when starting out? What are the items that make up this invoice? So I would say in response to that question, let's go back to the beginning of the live. So we spent about a good 20 minutes talking about money, how to build your invoices, how to make them, how to make sure that you've got itemized billing on that invoice and make it clear so that you are able to justify why you're charging 25,000 and not 18,000. Remember this, just one point that I didn't make on this, but I think I should make it now. Oftentimes, what I see, the mistake that I see people making is they say, okay, I want 25,000. And so I'm now going to go work, reverse engineer backwards so that I can justify 25,000. So I'm going to say that my rate is 5,000 Rand an hour, and then I'm going to say the work is going to take me 5 hours. Remember that if I'm the client and you are charging me, you're saying to me it's going to take you 5 hours for a piece of work that Nozipo says that she can do in 2 hours. Despite the justification of your rate, I'm going to go with Nozipo because she's more efficient in what she can deliver. And of course, I'm going to be looking at, besides the efficiency, how does that relate to the value that is being put on the table. So you're not just, when you're doing pricing, you're not just competing on price, you're competing on value. Is it worth the 25,000 Rand that she's charging me? I've just had a recent thing, literally on Friday, where, you know, I was approached for something, and then I said, okay, cool, I'm keen, I like it, and I sent through a quote for my services, and then they came back and they said, we really, really want you, but because we have to follow procurement, Lerato, you'll like this, because we have to follow procurement process, we've got other service providers who've come in cheaper than you. Can you please drop your rate so that we can give you the job? And my response was no. If you want to pay 2 Rand 50, then you must be prepared for the 2 Rand 50 value. The reason why they're charging that much is because that's how much their work is worth. With me, this, you know what you're paying for. And if you feel that it's worth more than what they can deliver, then you're going to pay for it. I'm not going to give you 5 Rand's worth of work at a 2 Rand 50 price because somebody else has decided to charge 2 Rand 50. Last thing about this, and it's such a difficult thing when you are in the business of speaking. You know, when I first started, there were so many people or clients who would say, we really, really want to use you, but you know, we've got an internal person here at the organization that says they can do it for free. So we are wondering whether we can, if you could do it for free as well. Go and get John from finance to come. I just really, really think that, you know, if you think John from finance is going to be able to do a better job of moderating the conversation, then that's what you're going to do. But I'm not going to participate in a race to the bottom. And that's what happens, guys. You can get caught up in a race to the bottom because somebody else has quoted cheaper than you go cheaper than them. And what that then teaches the client is that actually it is the lower value that should be their starting point. And the next time, they're starting you at 3 Rand because they knew the last time they started you at, you know, 5 Rand, and then somebody else came at 4 Rand. So this time they start you at 3 Rand. So you're always working backwards and making less money. It can't be like that. It can't be like that. And we must also get comfortable with an annual inflation-linked increase. You know, that's how every business works. So if we're looking at 6% as an increase across the board, your services are going to be 6% higher. It's just what it is. And you must be confident as to why you are charging that amount relative to the 6% less that you charged last year. Okay, so I've got 10 minutes left. I want to just see if there are any additional questions. So those were the questions, guys. Those are all the questions that I got for this week. I think we touched on all of them, except, of course, the mentorship question. You guys, you and John from finance, guys, you won't believe it. It happens all the time. And I can't help you. Oh, there was a question that came in this afternoon, and sorry, I didn't make it to the list, which was, I don't want to close this because now, okay, I'm going to look on my screen now. It was such a good question, and I actually thought that I was going to remind myself to actually get into that question because I thought it was a brilliant question. I just want to see, I'm not very good at navigating this thing. I'm like on my phone and on my laptop, just trying to figure out. But if I don't get it this week, I'll definitely pick it up. I'll definitely pick it up next week. So generally what the team does, they work in advance and they kind of pull out the questions for me by Monday morning. So if your question hasn't come through on Monday morning, it becomes a little bit tight during the day for them to consolidate it. But I'll definitely pick up that question. My mind's gone blurry, but it was such a good question. So guys, I just want to see, there was one that just popped up now. What about when you're starting out and you don't have a track record yet? The unapologetic housewife, remember we spoke about this at the beginning and we said, you've got to make a call whether this is a business development opportunity or is it you being taken for a ride. And only you can decide that. As I've said, I've done things pro bono. I've done things on an honorarium, but that's because I knew why I was doing it, because there was a particular audience in that room that I knew that if I get onto the stage, it doesn't matter the fact that I'm not getting paid for this, because that's where my next invoice is sitting, and it's not one invoice, it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 invoices. So I'm going to do it at an honorarium and not at my full rate. But only you can decide in those specific moments. I don't think it's a blanket, it should be a blanket approach to say, I never do anything pro bono, because sometimes we just want to give back, right? But you've got to make a call. Oh, I want to talk about something you've just reminded me. Elbow, where do we send questions for next Mentorship Monday? DMs. We're in the DMs. I want to talk about something very quickly in the last sort of 5 minutes. And this is something that becomes prevalent now, guys, where you get invited to come and moderate or to come and speak at an event where the event organizers are charging people for that event, but they don't want to pay you. So when somebody reaches out to me and starts off with, you know, we like your, we find you inspirational, we'd love to have you come, we're doing this event, and just know that this is the August conversation, right? This is, they come in bucket loads in August, right? Because it's Women's Month. We find you inspirational. We've got a high tea, we've got a brunch, we've got a this, we've got a that, and we'd like you to come and inspire the woman and so on and so forth. Okay? Are you charging the people to come and attend? And the response is yes, we're charging them 850 Rand a seat or whatever. So if you're charging your guests, why are you not paying me? And guys, you must get comfortable with this conversation. You cannot allow people to commercialize your name and you benefit nothing from that. As a matter of principle, if you're going to commercialize my name, I have to benefit from that. And sometimes people will say to you, oh no, the costs only cover the venue, the accommodation, and so on and so forth, but it doesn't cover the moderator or the program director, whatever it is that you're being invited for. So why don't you give me the catering money? Don't let the people eat, pay me instead. Because you're seen as the freebie relative to everything else that's a non-negotiable that needs to be paid for. And for as long as we participate in events like that, where you allow yourself to be reduced to a freebie or an add-on onto the goodie bag, you're not going to be able to break out of that cycle when they come back the next year and the next year and the next year. So if you're going to charge anyone a ticket, you're going to pay me. And if you're not then going to charge, if you are doing it out of the goodness of your heart and everybody else is contributing, the venue is a pro bono or goodwill contribution, somebody else is donating the food, somebody else, then it's fine. I might consider the fact that I might then also participate. But don't allow people to build business on your back. And I know that when I say no in those engagements, that sometimes people might think that, oh, Unozipo is behaving like a celebrity or whatever the case may be. No, I'm a businesswoman and I run a business, and a serious business at that. I employ people. So I'm not going to allow somebody else to build their business on my back. And you've just got to be clear about that. Last 4 minutes. Okay, I want to say something else that is like, not for discussion, but hopefully we're going to get it next time. It's a little bit of a personal thing because I think it's important to have this conversation as well. Funnily enough, yeah, daughter, give me the catering money. Let them go hungry. Pay me with that money. Why are you assuming that I don't need to get paid, but everybody else must eat? And here you are feeding people salmon and prawns. Anyway, very interesting. Okay, I want to pick up this comment. Official sales saying, you can't allow people to commercialize your name and not benefit from that as a matter of principle. If you're seen as a freebie, when everything else is a non-negotiable payment. Yep, not the catering money, Nosy. Yes, the catering money. Definitely give me that. The one that nobody else clearly is, it must be paid. I want to talk about something personal that happened last week. So, last week I get a call, and I give out my number freely because whenever I go to all of these events, I'm always giving my card. I hate having a lot of cards. A lot of phones. So I only have one number. If you have my number, that's my number. And so I get calls of random people all the time because I give my number randomly. Anyway, I get called by this lady. It's a number I don't recognize, but it's a cell phone number, so it's not a landline number. And she says to me, hi, this is my name. I am the PA of such and such a gentleman. And he really wants to meet you to talk about a business opportunity. And he wants to meet you after hours because he wants it to be informal so you guys can get to know each other. Now, I've got 2 minutes because it's almost 7 o'clock. It's family time. My response to that request was that, thank you so much. It's so nice to meet you. I actually remember the gentleman that you're talking about because I actually met him on one of the travels recently. And I recall that we connected and I gave my number. But please, can you let him know that, number one, I don't do meetings after hours. And I don't meet with random men that I don't know. But I'm really happy to explore the business opportunity. And we can explore this on Zoom during the week. Please, can you get in touch with my PA so that we can find a time that works? The reason why I'm raising this, guys, is that there's a conversation that we must have as women in business. And how do we draw boundaries around ourselves? Because those boundaries determine how you are engaged within the market. Now, let me also go on to say this. I then met with the subsequent gentlemen, and there was 2 of them actually, online on Zoom. And the first thing that I said when we got onto the call, I can't believe the numbers are going up now. It says Kulumum Kosi. Now we're gossiping and now you guys are joining again. I met with the guys online. And the first thing I said to them, I said, guys, I'm really interested in your business and the business opportunity. But I just want to understand, why did you think that you can invite me to an after hours meeting when I've never ever spent time with you? Where does that come from and what informs that? And very quickly they were like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. We can see how that's offensive. We just thought maybe it would just be getting to know each other to introduce us to your business. And so we had to have the conversation, right? And I said to them, I appreciate that, but I just want to play back how that made me feel. Right? Note the language. I want to play back how that made me feel. And I played it back. And after that, we had such a good conversation. So I want to share this because I want to share this because I think sometimes in pursuit of business, we don't want to miss business opportunities. But also, guys, be a room divider glass also, right? Like you can't just be accessible after hours, all sorts of things, just because somebody is promising you a business opportunity. This is South Africa we live in, after all. We know what happens in these situations, and we know the risks that we're taking as women. And it's such an unfortunate reality, because a guy is not going to think twice about being invited to drinks at the Michelangelo or the Da Vinci or whatever, the Leonardo, whatever these Greek gods we give these hotels, these Greek god names, right? Because it's just drinks. And Sharon, you're absolutely right. It is about setting a standard. Tandega, hey, yeah, no, we grew up on room dividers. It is about setting a standard. It is about communicating that I am a professional, and you're not going to lure me with the carrot of a business opportunity to go and have drinks with you at 7:30. In fact, that was the time that was proposed. Can we meet at 7:30? Excuse me? Go past 7. Tiza wam, yes, I sleep at 9. That is so close to my bedtime. Like, it's such a crazy thing that we have to think about that as women. But I think it's important for your brand. Who are you? And how accessible are you to business opportunities? And which are the ones are you going to entertain and the ones that you're not going to entertain? What are the things that you're going to open yourself up to and the things that you're going to say, not me? You don't. That's like being whistled at. You don't engage me like that. You send me an email. Just send me an email, state your case. Let's now then decide whether, it's worth me meeting you or not. And I thank goodness for COVID, guys. I just love the fact that we can do Zoom. In your office, in my office, and we can have a conversation centered on business. But it's important that even the guys listening in, maybe you're not thinking about it, but honestly, let's think about what is the ask that we're putting of people in the name of doing business together. And we've just got to get that right. Okay, I want to read some comments and then I'm going to go. Nami, my husband is back, so I need to go be a wife there. Avetando says, this is the world as women. Some men don't understand women in business and leadership. Totally, we need to get the boundaries right. Karen, thank you for picking it up as well. Lerato, it is. We have to do the education, and that's why I had to say to them, can I please play back how you made me feel? How that conversation of you sending your PA to call me for a meeting at 7:30 made me feel. And why it makes me feel uncomfortable right now, even as we're meeting on Zoom. And it was so amazing to hear how well received the conversation was and the respect that came out of that conversation. And you can see how the tone changes when quickly they realize, no, I'm not part of that squad. And this is really the thing that I wanted to share. It was on my heart. It's a little bit of personal stuff, but I think I hope that you found that meaningful. We need to make sure that you need to teach people how to treat you. You need to teach people how to engage with you. And you just need to be clear. I'm a professional and we're going to engage as peers. My mother used to always say, so the Zulus will know that. That's the umhlati is the last tooth here. So she says, for translation, don't always be laughing so that people see your last tooth. Sometimes you've got to bring things back so that you can teach people how to engage. Thank you so much, guys. It's time for all of us to go back to our lives, I'm sure. I've really appreciated the session today. And also remember, guys, when you're sending the questions, it doesn't have to be all of these hectic business questions. I'm happy to take personal questions as well, as if I can answer it. And if, again, we see a theme, we're going to get somebody maybe to come and help me. We want to build a community. Official Phil, we need to talk about people who have aspirations to be authors. How do we help them? So you've got to come on and help me have that conversation. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening and enjoy the rest of the week. All right. Ciao, ciao.